What's up, beautiful people? It's your girl Karina. Welcome back to the channel. I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to be going live today to continue the channeled thoughts on when women ruled the world. But the secret is, if you haven't noticed yet, that when women ruled the world, we were not even considered women. We were something else. It was a completely different energy. And so it's really when the divine feminine had dominion over the world, okay? And when the world was naturally uplifting the divine feminine within us all. That's really the keys to it. Now, I actually did a video called Melanated Women Are Cats. Okay. Really important to understand that I use the word melanated women because that encompasses a bigger, vast group than if I just say black women. Okay. And so I know that I have all different kinds of friends who follow and support me on this channel. And I hope that the direction that I'm going is going to help inspire you more than offend you. But if you are offended, then what can I say? I don't know. But definitely check out that video. And because I'm going to talk about the end of that video where I said that if melanated women are cats, then what are non melanated women? And we're going to talk about that in the story of when women ruled the world. But I also want to answer some questions that were asked on that video in the comments. Hi, through a five Capricorn, welcome. In the comments of that video, were asked, what about the serpent and the dragon energy? So it's all related, my dearest, dearest friends. It's all related. I speak from a place of channeling from the Akashic records. And I actually had a big upload last week, but I am not naturally able to channel into the Akashic. I honestly just got an upload last week, which helped me to start the series, When Women Rule the World. And because I'm more earthly bound creature, I don't always have access to the mysteries and the ancient knowledge. I only have it in certain transits. I have an empty 12th house, so I'm not a psychic. So I am finishing up this series until the spirits, the angels, divine order calls for me to continue it again. But I definitely want to answer your questions to help um, you guys understand what it is I'm trying to say. And this is just a catalyst to help you move forward and discover more things for yourself. Okay. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about when women rule the world, or that is when the divine feminine ruled the world. Okay. Now, if you are new to this concept, what I've said, to summarize what I've said in the past 5 videos of this series, is that when the divine mother ruled the world, right, she gave up her children in order to create a contract for the masculine to rule over in dominion. Okay. And what is the masculine? The masculine is her sons or her lover or her husband, as you can see it, right? Because when we think of divine femininity and motherhood or the mothership, we're understanding that she creates her seed. So it's her children. So it's her sons, right? And this is where we get the story of the son from when we look at Christianity, even when we look at astrology. It's connected to the original mother's seed. Okay. Now, I also mentioned in one of the videos how the original mother did not love all of her children. And we can see that that's reflected even in human life, that some children are favored over others, things like that. So, why wouldn't it be the case in the original mother, right? Okay. So when she gave up herself for her son to rule, right? She allowed for herself to be this part of her femininity to be in a form, right? Because feminine energy is without form, masculine energy is with form. So, in the contract for her son to rule over, right, women became women, meaning that their bodies became of form. This is why you have the form that you have today. It's based off of the femininity being placed and formed through the eye of the sun, okay, or through the eye of masculine dominant energy, okay. So while there was a new dominion, right, which is the sun, or I call the fall's sun. Why is it the fall's sun? It's because it's a fall of femininity into masculinity. So it's the fall's sun or the false sun. There's also a false mother because of the fact that she gives up part of herself to be a form so that you can create women, right? Now there is a programming network, which we know or popularly use the term matrix. So I'll use that as well in order to explain this concept, right? So the false mother, right, has a false son, and there's a false father as well. There's a false everything. But again, when I say false, I also mean fall because I'm talking about the fall of when women ruled the world. But again, it's not women, it's the divine feminine. Okay, because once it becomes woman, now we're talking about when the masculinity has dominion over the world. And when masculinity has dominion over the world, this is um, really just the mother uplifting the son, right? So I want to tie this. That's a summary of what I've already spoke about. And if you guys want to hear more detail as to what I channeled about that story, then check out parts 1 through 5. Specifically 2 and 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I talk about the origins of the pendulum swinging between feminine and masculine. Okay. But today I want to talk to you guys about form. And in the fall of femininity, right, form was created for women. So there are various creatures, entities, and symbols that represent women. So the video that I dropped was melanated women are cats because that is one entity, one symbolism that was used in order to create woman through the eye of the sun. Okay. But the other thing is understanding um, the serpent energy. And where does the serpent energy play in the role of all of humanity? Well, actually, all of humanity embodies the serpent energy because the serpent energy is actually like a phallus. It's like phallus worship. This is why in Lovecraft, you see the scene probably in like episode 2 when William is with Letty and he unzips himself and out pops a serpent because it's the idea of um, taking in ideas or taking in a penis. It's either one. Because when you take in somebody's ideas, you're receiving their idea. So you're taking in the serpent energy or the serpent whispering in your ear. It's sex, basically. Okay. So before feminine energy had sex, right? There's this concept of self reproduction, basically, being able to create babies or seeds on her own. But then when the shift changes and the pendulum swings to masculinity and dominion, we gain this serpent energy. And it's the exchange between one body to another body. And that exchange is represented by the serpent. And this is why we all have it, women and men alike. Okay. So women have it in their genitals too, right? It's definitely there in the vagina, but men have a actual like living, breathing out there symbolism of the serpent. I don't know how much YouTube is going to censor me, so I have to be careful about how I say this. Um, so that's what serpent energy is, okay? And basically, we all have it because we all can have sex with one another, all right? So the form of man and woman is formed in the eye of the sun, right? And this is why we all have serpent energy. We all also have dragon energy, but it goes a little bit deeper. And this is why I said, well, where do non melanated women, or femininity, where does it fit in? Well, it fits into the story of Adam and Eve and into the story of Eve and Lilith. Okay. So all melanated women are pretty much connected to the original energy of Tiamat and the original energy of Gaia, however you like to say it, right? The original energy, because melanin is like the first, it's like all that, everything is encompassed in melanin, if that's how we understand it, right? So melanin holds, and specifically melanated women hold what some would maybe call the God gene, but basically they hold all the bloodlines. Okay. So where do we get blood from? Okay. Where do we get the period from? Where do we get all of those things from? We get that with our connection to the moon. Okay. So moon people look different than sun people. Moon people are more translucent in their skin. They may possess less melanin, right? So moon people are the children of the original mother as well. Okay. When you look at the story of Adam and Eve, this is the story of forming humans, creating humans into a form. All right. Now, Eve is not a representative of is Eve, instead of saying Eve is not a representative, what I'm going to say is Eve is a representative of a perfect woman. Okay. This is why Eve is between Virgo and Libra. Okay. And if you understand Virgo and Libra from, well, first we'll start from the tropical sense, because Virgo is a mutable sign, which means that Virgo is changing. Okay. Libra is a sign that is about beauty. So together, they represent Eve. This is not just me making this up, because if you look at a zodiac chart, sunrise is Aries, sunset is Libra, okay, which creates the evening. And this is where I can get the information from. It's from ancient astrology that Eve is something that is molded, it is formed, right, to be perfect. So, what you actually find is that the story of Lilith and Eve is that Eve is created as the perfect woman. This might actually be offensive to some people because people will be upset when they portray Adam and Eve as being white, but there's a reason why. It's not that they were just white, but it's the idea that this is in the eye of perfection. So maybe you guys do know that, right? But it is the concept of mixing blood. It is the concept of mixing, of adapting, of pulling all of the elements perfectly together to create the perfect human, right? And this is why you have the story of Eve. Now, it's also connected to the story that happens within the womb and within the ovaries of the perfect egg, right? The perfect egg that actually gets, um, through the reproductive process, right? Is gets is merged, right, with the sperm, right, and creates a human. Okay. So it's the same thing as Eve and Lilith, because Eve is the perfect form of a woman, and the egg is chooses the perfect, the strongest um seed, and together they create a human. So it's the same idea. It's the same idea here. Now Lilith is connected to the moon as well. All right. In the story, Lilith wants to mount on top of Adam and is the first wife and wants to be the sexual demon that, can be in control, right? That's what we understand Lilith to be. Okay. So Lilith is the blood. Lilith is the blood that sheds when a woman is on her period as well. Why is that? Because when a woman is on her period, she cannot get pregnant. That's why the mythology of Lilith is that she kills babies. Because when the egg sits in the womb and sheds, that baby is not to happen. So you have two different types of women. You have the woman who is pregnant and the woman who is not pregnant, right? The woman who is pregnant is Eve. The woman who is not pregnant is Lilith. Lilith can have sex anytime she wants, any way she wants, right? When you're pregnant, you can have sex too, but it's that idea that a woman can choose to have a child or not, can choose to birth or not, right? So, in the origins of the form of humanity are these stories and they interlock. They're the same story, right? In esoteric and exoteric, as you would say. As above, so below, as within, so without. And that's pretty much the story of Lilith and Eve. So when I talk about non melanated women, what I'm saying is that they are the seeds of the mother that are connected to the moon versus the sun. Okay. And the story of the moon is the idea of why women have their periods and not. Now, serpent energy is the same thing as dragon energy. They're both connected to the blood, but dragon energy is actually the true connection to the blood and the bloodlines. Serpent energy is having sex, dragon energy is the blood, right? So, this is why we all have serpent energy and we all have dragon energy. Specifically, women have dragon energy because of their connection to the blood. Okay. And so, this is the story of Eve versus Lilith is a story of good women versus bad women, which has been kind of doctrinated in a masculine dominant world, right? In which you are seeing yourself as being the good girl versus the bad girl, the angel versus the devil, right? The virgin versus the whore. This concept of Lilith and Eve is based off of this idea of a perfect woman, okay? And through the form of the fall's son, this perfect woman was also a mixture of blood, right? So it is the combination of melanin and non-melanin. It is a Eve is everything. It is it is like plastic surgery. Do you guys, like when you think about plastic surgery, think about enhancing your body. This is the same thing. It's the same concept. And what's also interesting is that people who have strong Virgo and Libra placements in very specific nakshatras of the Vedic system, they are more likely to manipulate the bodies, to form the body through the eye of perfection. It's the same thing, as within, as without, as before. So right now, everything is a mirror. Everything is a mirror, right? So that's the concept of Eve. Eve is perfect, right? And I think that this might make some people upset, some people of my own skin color upset, because we might go to this idea that melanin is supposed to be perfect, and maybe it is the feminine God's will that melanin is perfect. I don't know, but when we think about the rulership and dominion of the mother has to love all her children, good and bad. That would be the difference between the fall of woman from before and what would happen now. But more than likely, as pendulum swings and as the karmic circle continues, it's very possible that as the feminine, divine feminine, becomes more in dominion again, that she will again forsake some of her children, right? So this concept of war will always happen because war happens between those who aren't loved, right? Those who are abandoned, those who, don't have a place to belong, and or those who are fighting for that place, right? Fighting for motherland, fighting for the mother, right? Because that fight is based off of Lilith energy, which is being forsaken, which is some children getting to live and exist and some children not, right? It's all basically, it sounds like chaos when I'm speaking it, but it's all in the astrology, which is where I channel it from. So if you see the stars as reflecting down here, then it's the same concept. Basically, what I am saying is that there is something even more original than the astrology that we practice today. The astrology itself that we practice today is also under the false mother. It is also a construct, a programming of tendencies to keep you in a karmic cycle, showing you the mistakes from the past and showing you the possible mistakes that you will make in the current moment. So astrology as well is a construct, which is why certain people don't want to follow it, because we want to be under this idea that we are under sovereignty. Okay, this is something that I want to create another video on, because this is the true astrological way and how to break a curse. And I think I will make a video on that in the future. How to break a curse. In order to break a curse, you must see that you are cursed, right? Meaning that you have a course that you have to follow, which is your astrology. So a lot of people might not want to look at the astrology because they're scared of it, because they don't want to be cursed. But when you look at astrology, you're actually seeing the oath or the agreement that you took in order to be within the matrix, which is to take form as a human being and to abide by the laws and the rules of what has been within this matrix. So, what happens if the feminine energy comes back into dominion? She is going to actually have to embrace her natural original self, which is outside of the matrix, and her false self, which is within the matrix. It's the same thing as you looking into the mirror, okay? Because there is the you who is the consciousness experiencing yourself, and then there's the you looking into the mirror, which is the false self, the reflection, right? So that is what the rise of divine feminine is going to be. It's going to be accepting her shadows, accepting her mirror. It's going to be Eve loving Lilith, right? Lilith loving Eve. And as mothers loving their Adams, which are their sons and daughters, and all of the mutations that occur within the atoms. Okay. And that is ADAM as well as ATOM, right? In the concept of what of motherhood and of the divine mother being coming back and taking dominion over. And it's a shift, it is a transition. It's not going to be as instant as some might like it, but that's because there's a lot that happened in the fall of mother being in dominion. So the care, it's careful, it's protection, water energy, it's all protective. The transition is a protective thing. So that's why it will be protective for femininity to take dominion again. Okay. And if it happens in a way that is different than the past, then the pendulum doesn't have to swing anymore. Because when the mother loves her children, then there doesn't need to be an oppositional force anymore, in which now you create almost this space of being in heaven. like in the god with the gods, right? Owning your creativity, loving your mother, loving your father, your sons and your daughters, right? Really being in that space. But that is a true human karmic obstacle. So it's not easy. And this is why when femininity comes into dominion, it has the ability to have another fall again, and to create another false matrix, and to create new forms and beings, which is where you get this idea of um I forget what it's called, but it's like when the robots are taking over or whatever. There's like a term for it, trans something. um so everything is happening. So even in the space of time is the the space and the concept of no time, right? The concept of no time is chaos energy, which is femininity taking over. So if you lose time, right, then it's even more of a signal that femininity or the divine mother is coming back. Okay. When she comes back this time around again, she will have to embrace father, son, father, husband, and son, which means that time still has to exist, but then time doesn't exist. So you can travel time. And that's the whole idea of time travel, is the breaking of time. I don't know like the actual science behind it, but this is the astrological reasoning behind it, right? So everything has to exist under the umbrella of it all, which is time and no time, which is a false matrix, right? A false mother and the real mother. And I think that it happens with the consciousness of knowing that they exist, which would be maybe the first step, because you'll see that right now chaos happens more, even more, because people choose a side, right, instead of choosing everything, right? So if they chose everything, then that's the true sign that the mother is coming back to be in dominion, because the mother truly loves all her children. So that is my take on when women rule the world, quote unquote. The story of the pendulum swinging back and forth from masculinity being in dominion versus femininity being dominion. So when divine mother is in dominion, masculinity will be in dominion as well, if she gets it right this time. It's also the story of how we are formed, utilizing energies and symbols from the earth, from Gaia, right? Also from the sun and from the moon, right? And this is why you have Eve and Lilith, the story of Eve and Lilith, because it's actually the story of mixing bloodlines to create the perfect human. And it's also how you embrace the non melanated path, which is the path of the moon. Okay. And we all have it within us, because we all are influenced by the moon. It's just that the moon for melanated people is more shadow than for non-melanated people. Okay, this is why the concept of shadow work did not come from melanated people. A lot of that term shadow work is like a big community thing in the spiritual community, but it didn't come from melanated people. Melanated people didn't create shadow work. Melanated people did not create the term pain bodies. These came from people who are more of the non-melanated types, okay, because that is their mastery, is being of the moon. All right, but again, we all have it. We all are influenced by the moon. We all are moon stars. Okay. And this is, I'll get more into this in another one, but when we think about the other animal symbols and how it's imprinted on the humans, like how I showed to you the cats are imprinted on melanated women. This is why I hope you'll understand when I show you the other animals and their symbolism imprinted on humans, where it's coming from, when you understand the role of the moon, because the moon is a very important entity, and is the closest entity, closer than the sun to us. So a lot of our shadow and our concept of pain body is the key to the femininity rising. Melanated people have a curse and a course and a karma as well in understanding to embrace their shadow selves, right? So the more that you embrace your shadow self, the more that you embrace your monstar, your moon star, then you will gain the keys to the moon, right? Being a true moon key or a mun key. So it's all the same thing. It's all connected. This is why the story of Eve and Lilith is also the story of your menstrual cycle. Okay. And this is why women are connected to the moon phases in their menstrual cycle. So you want to check, you could download an app, or you could just learn the phases of the moon and find out when your period comes with the phase of the moon, and you'll find that you're either going to be having your period in a waning or a waxing phase of the moon, right? So knowing where your period is in connection to the moon is like understanding your relationship to it all, exoteric and esoteric, meaning that an app is nice, but if you know the moon phases, you don't need an app, right? Because you'll see that you're directly connected to the moon. So, again, the story of Eve and Lilith is very deep. It is the story of the perfect human, which is mixing bloodlines, and the story of those who were cast out, which is Lilith. Okay. Which is also connected to the egg, which is fertilized, versus the eggs, which are not fertilized, which is your period, right? Your menstruation. Okay. Thus, when a woman has a fertilized egg, she has more limitations on her. And she's looked to be more adored and seen as pure and innocent because she's creating purity and innocence with by being pregnant. And of course, pregnant, you can have sex, but it's a different kind of sex than when you are not pregnant, right? Some of you guys might debate me on that, but I'm just giving you the ideas behind it. And this is why Lilith is considered a sexual demon, because she is free. She does not have children. She has her period. She kills the babies or kills the eggs and can continue having sex any way she wants. And that is the triplicity of the story of Lilith and Eve. It's on various layers. Okay, so this is going to be the end of the series, When Women Rule the World, Part 6. And if there's a calling for it to happen again later on the line, I'll definitely pull it in. But I feel that I've done the part that I was supposed to do in the uploads from the ancestors and the ancient ones that they gave me. And I think that my space or contribution is done. Um, for now. Okay, so thank you guys. I hope that this brought clarity to what it is that I've been trying to say. And hopefully, you'll understand what I'm trying to say in the next few videos as well, because I will elaborate on what I've done so far. Peace and love. Thank you. 305 Capricorn, Goddess Essence, Ellis Cherry. Thank you guys for tuning into this crazy ass frequency. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace and love.